Welcome to Journey Church at Home. We are so grateful for the privilege of worshiping God with you today. While we're getting ready for church, why don't you take a moment right now, take a snapshot of your family getting ready to worship God together and post it on social media so that we can see each other worshiping God together. Tag it with JFC Life on social media. Use the hashtag JFC Life and let's share our photos with one another. If you're on the online campus, there is a pastor there in real time. You can have a conversation, ask questions, send a prayer request. You can do that in the comment section right there on the online campus. And many of you who are joining us by Facebook Live, there are Journey pastors and Journey people hosting watch parties. You can join in and have a conversation and give a thumbs up or raise your hands or using the emojis or send a heart. Great way to connect by online tools there right from your comment section, and let us know that you're worshiping God with us today, either on the online campus or on Facebook Live. If you're joining us for the first time today, would you let us know on the online Connect card? If you're on Facebook Live, there's a link right above, or on the online campus, click the button for the online Connect card. Take a moment, fill it out, let us know that you're joining us today. If you are a regular attender, you know how to use those Connect cards. You can send us a prayer request, you can share a win, you can tell us how we can serve you, you can get connected. We can't wait to meet live with you again, and let us know how we can serve you until then. Also, let me take a moment right now and thank you for those of you who've been so faithful to give your tithes and offerings. We are amazed at how generous Journey is. Thank you for giving faithfully to the Lord's work. You make all the ministry that happens at Journey possible. The online campus, all the ministry on the North Shore, all the outreaches that we do to nations of the world, you make it all possible. There's several ways to give. You can give online right now, right from the Journey app. You can also give at journeyfellowshipchurch.com, and you can text to give at 84321. And of course, you can always drop your tithes and offerings off by the church office during office hours. We're at 3127 Pontchartrain Drive in Slidell. You can mail your tithes in. If you want to just drive by and see a pastor or get prayer or just have a few moments of fellowship, you can stay in your car, let us know that you're there. We'll come out to you. We want to know how we can serve you during this time in your life. Journey is excited to introduce Right Now Media. Right Now Media is an online video streaming app that's filled with tens of thousands of resources to help you in your journey of faith for your kids, for your family, for yourself, for your small group. If you'd like to be included in the rollout, we need your updated email address. Take a moment and fill out the online Connect card, update your email address, and we will include you in the rollout as a member of the Journey family, Right Now Media. For more information about Journey Fellowship Church, everything I've said is at journeyfellowshipchurch.com. You can go to our website. All of these times and dates and information, even the links are posted there. Lots of resources to encourage your faith. Even the Journey TV schedule is right there. You can link up too with Journey students and Journey kids and find out all the resources, links, and ways to build community in your walk with Jesus. JourneyFellowshipChurch.com. Well, we're ready to worship God. Let's stand up and we're going to join our worship band as we sing praises to the great name of Jesus. Let's worship God together.
Me to the water where my past can be swept away in the current of your mercy, and I know I'll never be the same. There's no limit to your promise. Jesus, you have done it all for me. Jesus, you have done it all for me. Jesus, you have done it all for me. Yes. Grace comes like a wave crashing over me. Grace comes like a wave crashing over and over and over. Grace comes like a wave crashing over me. Grace comes like a wave crashing over and over and over. Oh Lord, over and over. There is healing in the water with a love that flows so deep. Wash over me, wash over me. Forgiveness in the water with a love that flows so deep. Wash over me, wash over me. Salvation in the water with a love that flows so deep. Wash over me, wash over me. Yes. Grace comes like a wave crashing over me. Grace comes like a wave crashing over and over and over. Grace comes like a wave crashing over me. Grace comes like a wave crashing over and over and over. Let your wave crash. There is healing in the water with a love that flows so deep. Wash over me. Forgiveness in the water with a love that flows so deep. Wash over me, wash over me. Salvation in the water with a love that flows so deep. Wash over me, wash over me. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, and you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Only you. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, and you restore every heart that is broken. Oh yes, great are you, will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. Great are you, Lord. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Oh, live and breathe you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. You go before I know that you've even gone to win my war. Your love becomes my greatest defense. It leads me from the dry wilderness. Oh, Jesus. And you go before I know that you've even gone to win my war. Your love becomes my greatest defense. It leads me from the dry wilderness, and all I did was praise, and all I did was worship, and all I did was bow down, yeah. And all I did was stay still. And hallelujah, you have saved me. It's so much better your way. Hallelujah, great defender. It's so much better your way. And you know before I do where my heart can see to find your truth. Your mercy is a shade I'm living in. You restore my faith and hope again. And all I did was praise, yeah. And all I did was worship,
and all I did was bow down, yeah, and all I did was stay still. Oh, yeah, hallelujah, you have saved me so much better your way. Hallelujah, great defender, it's so much better your way. Hallelujah, you have saved me, it's so much better your way. Hallelujah, great defender, it's so much better your way. Yes, Jesus. Yes, Lord. And when I thought I lost me, you knew where I left me. You reintroduced me to your love. You picked up all my pieces and put me back together. You are the defender of my heart. And when I thought I lost me, you knew where I left me. You reintroduced me to your love. And you picked up all my pieces and put me back together. You are the defender of my heart. And hallelujah, you have saved me so much better your way. Hallelujah, great defender, so much better your way. Hallelujah, you have saved me so much better your way. Jesus, hallelujah, great defender, so much better your way. Jesus, so much better. And all I did was praise, yeah. And all I did was worship you, Jesus. And all I did was bow down before you. And all I did was stay still. Oh, Jesus, in your presence, Lord. Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face toward you and give you peace. The Lord bless you and keep you. Make make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face toward you and give you peace. And amen, 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 amen. The Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face toward you and give you peace. And amen, 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 and amen, amen, Jesus. May his favor be upon you for 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon you for 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon you for 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon you for 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you. He is within you, he is with you, he is with you. May his presence go before
Here at Journey Fellowship, we celebrate big. And today, on Mother's Day, we want to take a moment to recognize and honor all of the moms in our church family. Maybe today, you are a glowing, expectant mom. We anticipate the miracle of new life with you. Maybe this year was a combination of immeasurable joy and exhaustion as you welcomed a new baby to your family. We are in awe of your little one. Perhaps you're elbows deep in the younger years of potty training and runny noses and temper tantrums. The days are long, but the years are certainly short, and we treasure every second with you. Perhaps your little ones are not so little anymore, and as they face increasing independence, you're weary, praying that they make good choices. Bless your heart, we are right there praying with you. For those whose children are all grown now, we commend you for the lifelong investment you've made. Maybe you're a single mom and have labored tirelessly to fill all of the needs of your family. We applaud you for your endless hard work and commitment. We are proud of you. Maybe you're delighted to be enjoying the enriched season of being a grandparent and spoiling those grandbabies. We rejoice with you over that special bond you share with them. Maybe you're raising a child that doesn't share your DNA. For those foster moms, stepmoms, adoptive moms, spiritual moms, and God moms and honorary moms, we value and need you desperately. Maybe you've endured the devastating tragedy of burying your own child or your mom. Our hearts are shattered as we grieve with you. Maybe you never had the opportunity to meet your precious baby on this side of eternity. We cry with you and acknowledge the life, the memories, and so much more love that you had to give. Maybe today you find yourself in the valley of infertility, desperately longing to be a mother but unable to be yet. We stand with you and believe for miracles. For those with strained relationships or lacking relationships with your mom or your children, we mourn with you. So today, whether you're weighted by joy, hope, gratitude, grief, or remorse, we as your church family stand with you and rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. We find ourselves in a unique time. Suddenly you're wearing hats you've never anticipated. You're a chef and a therapist, a teacher and a principal, and even a hairdresser. Some of you as essential workers have sacrificed that time with your families. But each one of you have invested your nurturing heart, your sleep, your sanity, and your life into others. Your legacy is a lasting mark that is radically impacting the world. You are our biggest cheerleaders and our fiercest defenders. Thank you for all that you do. On behalf of Journey Fellowship, I want to wish you a happy Mother's Day.
Good morning. We are so glad that you joined us for Journey Church at Home. Happy Mother's Day to all of you, to those who are joining on the online campus, those of you who are live here in the auditorium. We want to say happy Mother's Day, and we are so excited about worshiping the Lord with you today on this special Sunday. Well, our message today is called Listen to Your Mama. And I think I heard my dad say that more times than I can count in my life. So we decided to title that message for Mother's Day with that phrase, Listen to Your Mama. In a few minutes, you're going to hear from a very special guest speaker presenting the Mother's Day message. As you probably have already heard, this is National Nurses Week, and we want to say from Journey Fellowship Church to all of the nurses here in our fellowship and all over the country and the world, thank you so much for all that you do to care for the sick and to serve those in need day in and day out. We literally owe you our lives. Thank you for being our nurse. 2020 has been proclaimed the year of the nurse, and we are celebrating all the great work that nurses do. And you may know this, but Florence Nightingale, who started the modern day nursing movement, well, her team serving during the Crimean War, she helped reduce the death rate of the injured soldiers from 42% down to just 2% by creating what is now the national or the worldwide nursing movement. And we honor the nurses and Florence Nightingale, who ushered in the age of the nurse. So, in light of all of that, we decided to invite a nurse to bring the Mother's Day message here at Journey. Most of you know this family. Ashley and Alicia Quirk are founding members at Journey. They have been with us here since 1998. They were just teenagers then, many, many years ago. Well, they've since married and had 3 beautiful daughters. We've dedicated all their children, baptized their daughters, and have done life with them now for 2 decades. And I wanted you to hear from Alicia today. Alicia became an RN early on, and then she served for 11 years as a labor and delivery nurse, and then 4 more years in another position. And recently, she completed her doctorate. So Alicia is now a DNP. She has a doctorate in nursing. But what I love about her heart, her passion is mothers and babies. And not only is she a nurse, but she is a mom. And I wanted you to hear from Alicia Quirk today. So would you please welcome to our pulpit, Dr. Alicia Quirk.
Thank you. Good morning. Happy Mother's Day. You know, it's the year of the nurse because it's Florence Nightingale's anniversary, 200th anniversary of her birth. So Pastor Doug is pretty awesome. I adopted him as my big brother years ago, and he's truly just one of the kindest people I've ever met. So my name is Alicia Quirk. I started attending Journey back in 1997. I wasn't really raised going to church, but my boyfriend had started playing music here, and he was really cute, and he kept inviting me to come to church, and I didn't want to, but I came so that I could shut him up, and that was the end of that. You may not recognize me without my family around, so I thought I would show a picture. They may have that coming. Maybe not. Oh, there they are. Okay. So on the end right there is, in the yellow, is my youngest daughter, Allie. She's 14. She's a beautiful, wonderful artist. She paints in oil. And now that she's not here in the auditorium to shut me up, I can brag on her. And next to her is Anna. Anna's 18. She just graduated from high school. She's going to be going off to Louisiana Tech in the fall to major in education. And she graduated in the top 10% of her class. And on the end there is Livy. That's our 16-year-old. She is my agriculture-loving, animal-loving child. You may also recognize her from playing on worship here on stage here on Sundays, on youth, and Wednesdays. And of course, on the end, my husband Ashley, the cute boy that invited me to church. He is playing worship here on Sunday as well. It's kind of funny how God pairs people up, because Ashley is the quintessential extrovert, and I am the awkward introvert, the one that you walk into a room and say, don't be weird, don't be weird. And someone says good morning, and you say, oh, good night. Anyway, I asked Google how to help me prepare for my message a little bit, and they told me to picture you in your underwear. And I thought, well, that's nice and all, but everybody's home right now, so you're probably still in your underwear. So I don't know how much that really helps. I don't know about you, but our house has gotten real casual over church lately. The next thing Google told me was to tell you why I'm qualified to speak to you. And I don't know that I am, so spoiler alert. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a theologian. I'm not a professional speaker, not even a small group leader. I'm very much a behind-the-scenes person, kind of like nurses are. We're always in the background doing things that need to get done, and kind of like moms are as well. We tend to be behind the scenes and faceless. So you may be wondering, why in the world is she on stage then? Well, as Pastor Doug mentioned, I am a nurse practitioner. I have spent my entire career specializing in taking care of mothers and their children. Happy Nurses Week to all my fellow nurses. I was a labor and delivery nurse for 11 years, and I spent 4 years as a home visitor in a program that specialized in mothers and babies, and it was the best time of my life. Last year, I became a nurse practitioner, and now I'm working in a pediatric primary care office, and I've enjoyed that as well. But I have been in school full-time for these last 3 years. But more importantly, I'm a mom. I'm a full-time mom. I'm a full-time worker. Some days I feel like a good mom. A few days I felt like a great mom. But there are many days where I feel like I'm just a mom trying to keep my head above water. I don't know about you, but 2020 is not really working out the way I had expected it to. My daughter's graduation was totally interrupted. We were supposed to be graduating together. It's my 20th wedding anniversary this year, and I was planning a vacation that won't happen. And I turned 40 at the end of this year, although I got some mixed feelings about that one, so that can hold off a little bit. So I was thinking about all these things during that tribute video, and man, it was so beautiful. And I just thought it was so perfect how she said we're all wearing different hats right now, as if our role wasn't busy enough. The pressure now is greater even than ever before. And let's face it, it's a setup for failure. But I want to remind you that you are the perfect parent for your child. And if I can give you permission of anything, it's to let go of your expectations. I know a lot of you, maybe like me, are thinking, it's not supposed to be like this. But I would remind you that God's plans are bigger than our plans, and his ways are bigger than our ways. And then Proverbs 16:9, God reminds us that we may make our plans, but he orders our steps. So I know somewhere you have a beautifully planned or maybe even color-coded calendar that you made off of a blog that you read or a Facebook post that you saw. But it's okay if it's sitting in the corner collecting dust. Before I get too far in, let me stop and give you my disclosures. As you can imagine, being a student, I spend a lot of time listening to professional talks. And anytime you go to a talk, the speaker always starts by revealing any disclosures that they have. Well, I've already told you I'm not a pastor or professional speaker. I'm a huge crybaby, so I may cry, but I have my tissue ready. Very sympathetic tear ducts. But probably the biggest disclosure that I want to tell you is I'm completely and sold out, completely, utterly passionate about what I'm going to share with you today. And that is the importance of a mother in her children's lives. So I thought I would open up with something funny, those little momisms that we get that no one else does. But I was trying to ask my kids to play along, and they had no desire to, so kind of typical. So I thought instead that I would open up with a story. When I was little, I had this quilt that my great-grandmother had made for me, and it was stitched, and it had kitty cats and little squares all over it. And when it was cold outside in the winter, I would stand in the hallway in the evening time, and my mom would hold this quilt up in front of the hall against the heater, and she would get it super snuggly and warm. And I would kind of stand there shivering and giggling because I knew what would come next would be that my mom would wrap that quilt around me and pick me up, and she would carry me down the hall to my bed, and she would tuck me in the bed, and she would cover the blankets above me and tuck everything down to make me snug as a bug in a rug. And it was a special part of our bedtime routine, and I looked forward to it every night, and I think it emphasizes the main point of today's message. And that is, a mother gives life to her children through an emotional connection, a physical contact, and a spiritual completion. The verse I want to base all this off of comes out of Proverbs chapter 31. So let me set this up a little bit for you. Proverbs 31 is known for being the book about the perfect, ideal woman. But before you panic a little bit and start judging yourself, let me calm you down some. Proverbs is not even written by a woman. It's written by King Lemuel. Some people argue that this is really King Solomon, and he's writing about his mother, but in my mind, it doesn't matter. It's just a story about a guy writing about his mom who is unnamed and faceless behind the scenes. The first half of the book, she's telling him, or the chapter, she's telling him how to live. In the second half, she's telling him how to do it and who to live with and how to treat her, and that's the ideal woman. So Proverbs 31, 1 and 2 says this, "The sayings of King Lemuel, an inspired utterance his mother taught him. Listen, my son. Listen, son of my womb. Listen, my son, the answer to my prayers." She goes on to say in verse 3, "Do not spend your strength on women, your vigor on those who ruin kings. It is not for kings, Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor for rulers to crave beer, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed, and deprive all the oppressed of their rights. Let beer be for those who are perishing, wine for those who are in anguish. Let them drink and forget their poverty, and remember their misery no more. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy." Now, I'm sure all the moms can identify. Look how many times she said listen in there. But what's interesting to note is that this is not a mom writing a lesson. This is somebody remembering something his mom taught him. And moms, we know, we don't tell our kids something one time and then they get it. This is a lifetime of lessons that she spoke to him over and over and over. And when he's writing, he's recalling back these lessons that she's been taught to him. So I want to unpack a little bit of this. As I said, a mother gives life to their children through an emotional connection, through a physical contact, and a spiritual completion. So we're going to look at these three things today: emotional, my son; the physical, son of my womb; and the spiritual, son, the answer to my prayers. Now, when we think of the emotional, we think of the connections that we have. And a mother builds her connection through her times and her interactions with her children. When we think of different things of emotions, sometimes we think of hormones. And hormones are things that run through our body, basically a chemical messenger. And we're all made up of hormones. Men, women, children, even animals are made up of hormones. And hormones are released based on feedback and messages that they get from the body. Many hormones come from the pituitary gland, which is this tiny little pea-sized gland at the base of your brain by the hypothalamus. The pituitary gland weighs about 0.5 gram, which is the size of a paperclip, just to put in perspective. So interesting how God controls so many tiny little things to do big. So there's two ways these chemical messengers operate, and most body systems operate in negative feedback. The body wants to stay in a steady state, meaning the body doesn't like change. It wants homeostasis. And if you think of your body as a thermostat, it makes a little bit of sense. You set the thermostat in your house, and when the temperature rises, the air kicks on and brings the temperature back down to what you set. If you set the temperature and your kid runs outside and leaves the door wide open and the air gets really hot, the air kicks on and brings it back to what it set. Now, the other feedback system that we have is a positive feedback. And in a positive feedback, this creates an unstable system, and the body doesn't really like unstable systems. But there are a few processes that operate this way, one of which is oxytocin. Now, oxytocin is known as the love hormone. It's a chemical messenger that delivers messages throughout the body. And oxytocin is one of the primary hormones involved in attachment and bonding in parents and children, partners, and close relationships. Some interesting facts about oxytocin. Of course, it's involved in attachment and bonding, but more about that in a minute. Oxytocin is important in stress release, so it works opposite of cortisol. So as your cortisol, which is our stress hormone, goes down, your oxytocin is raised. Oxytocin strengthens our memories, and they've actually done studies where people who are given oxytocin have a stronger connection to a childhood memory, whether good or bad. Oxytocin increases sexual arousal and bonding with our spouses. Oxytocin increases social skills. And they've actually done studies between individuals with autism and oxytocin and their response in a social situation. And oxytocin reduces fear, but it also increases our protective factors if we feel that one of our own is threatened. And of course, oxytocin, probably best known for its role in childbirth. Now remember what I said about attachment. Attachment describes the emotional bond between a child and their caregiver. And there's two schools of thought on attachment, nature and nurture, or environmental and biological, whichever you want to call it. But there's two different schools of thought regarding attachment. Now you have the behaviorists, like Dr. Watson, who say that attachment is learned through experience. I'm hungry, you feed me, I'm full and happy, therefore I feel really strongly about you. And if you do this over and over and over again, a connection is formed, and that child is now attached to the mother. Dr. Watson's famous for his quote, "Give me a dozen infants, well-formed, and my specified world to bring them up in, and I'll guarantee to take anyone at random and train him to become any specialist I might select." Dr. Watson said that he could create a doctor or a beggar just based on the environment that they're in. He didn't really put a whole lot of store by biology. Now, Dr. Bowlby, on the other side, a developmentalist, felt that their infants were biologically programmed to have a need for love. Infants are cute and cuddly, and they trigger coos and smiles so that when we look at them, we say, "Aw," and we want to pick them up and do anything for them. And like anything, one is rarely 100% right or 100% wrong, but probably a mix somewhere in the middle. Mary Ainsworth was a developmental psychologist, and she built on Dr. Bowlby's attachment theory. And she did an experiment that she called the strange situation. Now, in this situation, Dr. Ainsworth put in a mom and a baby in a room to play. And as they played, a stranger was introduced. The stranger interacts with the child. The child's a little upset, but he's mostly okay because mom is there. And then mom and the stranger leave the room together. The infant is playing by themselves, and the stranger comes back in without mom. Now what happens is the child becomes upset. I don't have my mom with me. But when mom comes back in again, the child becomes happy and goes back to the way they were playing before. Now Mary Ainsworth called this a secure attachment. And so what I want you to see here is that a secure attachment to the parent doesn't protect the child from experiencing the stranger, but it does allow them the resilience to better handle the experience. Throughout their interactions, parents teach their child emotions and emotional response. And as the child learns these emotions and reconnects with the parent, an emotional bond is formed. The second point that I want to make is that of physical contact. And when she says, "son of my womb," she's referring to that physical bond between her and her child. A mother builds a relationship with her child through physical contact. You know, when you're pregnant with a child, the mother and baby are actually physically connected to each other. And the umbilical cord starts forming at about 5 weeks after conception. The umbilical cord physically connects the developing fetus to the mother's placenta, which is an organ that forms specially for pregnancy to help feed and nurture a baby. Even in utero, we're cleaning up after our kids because the umbilical cord's other job is to pull waste from the baby and bring it back to mom. But one thing I think that's interesting about the umbilical cord is it's made up of 3 strands, an umbilical vein and 2 umbilical arteries. And it reminds me of Ecclesiastes 4:12. It says, "A triple braided cord is not easily broken." So when a mother goes into labor, the body secretes large amounts of oxytocin, which causes the uterus to contract. And the uterus is a smooth muscle, and it responds to this oxytocin. And as more and more oxytocin is released, the uterus contracts longer and longer and harder, till eventually, through the process of birth, a child is born. It's just another juxtaposition of God, because childbirth reminds us that love is not without pain or sacrifice. After delivery, there's a huge surge of oxytocin. This prevents bleeding excessively. Between this surge of oxytocin and the physical touch of mom, the baby is promoted to have attachment and bonding. And when it's time to feed the baby, oxytocin is there and ready. When a baby nurses at the breast, oxytocin is released, which allows milk to let down. And this surge of hormone ties in to strengthen the emotional and the physical connection of mom to baby. The child feels comforted to have a need met. The development of trust comes from having these needs met repeatedly, and from trust comes love. So a child then loves because we first love them, just as the Bible reminds us that we love because God first loved us. Now, worldwide, the weaning age is between 2 and 5 years old. That's a little bit lower in the United States, but the average time worldwide that people stop breastfeeding is between 2 and 5 years. And what's interesting is that the brain at this same time is growing at a very rapid rate. So fast, in fact, that the skull bones in a child's head aren't even fused together. 75% of the brain's adult volume will be achieved by the time a child turns 3. That number increases to 90% by the time they're 5. So the brain is molded like clay from the environmental experiences that we have that are a combination of emotion and biology. And children especially are sponges. So by the time they enter the school system, their foundation is already set and poured. And the things that we learn in our formative years set our response to everything for the rest of our lives. If you want an example in the Bible, just look at Moses. His mother was not supposed to have him. She did. She sent him down the river to be rescued by Pharaoh's daughter, who sends him back to his mother to be nursed. He stayed with her until he was weaned and then went on to his adoptive mom. And I just think it's interesting that God allowed that relationship between Moses and his mother to take place, knowing what he had in store for him. Have you ever stopped to wonder why God sent Jesus to earth the way he did? Out of all the ways that he could have come, he could have come in on a cloud, popped in out of thin air. He could have appeared in the temple one day, but he didn't. God sent him to be grown and to be knit together in his mother's womb and to nurse at her breast. So why is that? Well, I can't speak for God, but I do know that God specializes in families. So when we combine the emotional and the physical, we start forming our attachments. And you may think, I adopted, I foster, I'm raising grandkids, I'm a single mom, I'm a blended family, maybe I'm a mom without a child yet. And that's okay, because everything that I discussed before is important, but it's not the end of the story. See, God had all of those families in his Bible. Now, I'm a nurse, so I love to teach and demonstrate. In the program that I was at before, we used this when we were doing lessons with our mom. And basically, if you consider that this is your child and this is you, every connection that you have joins you together. So when your baby's born, they're hungry and you feed them. Their diaper's wet and you change them. They're tired and you put them to sleep. They get hungry again and you feed them. Now that everybody's home, there's millions of snacks. When they get a little bit older and they're toddlers, we're singing Baby Shark 1,000 times. Or maybe they want you to watch them jump off the step an 80th time again. You wipe their faces, you kiss their bobos. As they go to school, we work on homework and math problems. We teach them to pick up trash and to clean after ourselves. We teach them to be kind to others. And as they're teenagers, we teach them how to balance checkbooks and manage money and time and commitments. And as they go off into the world, we hope and we pray that we've given them the foundation that they need to set the pattern for the rest of their life. And so when we look at all of these experiences together, we form this connection between our children. Now, if most of these experiences were positive, then the attachment that a child feels to their mother is also positive. But if some of these were negative, and mom has depression, is emotionally unavailable, or we're in an abusive household, or there's finances and struggle, if there's more negatives, then this attachment is not a good one. So our hope is that as they go off, the lessons that we've given them set the foundation for their life. And as we slowly start the process of separating from them, which I am doing right now with a kid going to college, we hope that the lessons that we've given them will endure. Because you see, this leaves its indelible mark. Your child will never, ever be the same because of your influence on their lives. Remember earlier what I said about the strange situation? The secure attachment allows the child to develop resilience during the stressful situation. And I think it's a type and picture of our attachment to God. The situation is not dictated by the attachment. And our attachment to our Father is not a result of our circumstances. You see, our attachment doesn't prevent us from experiencing stress. It doesn't put us in a safe little bubble and mean that nothing bad's ever going to happen. But what God tells us is, I will never leave you, and I will never forsake you. So a secure attachment to our God Father then allows us to endure our hardships, knowing that we can turn to him anytime. Which brings me to my final point, spiritual, the son of my prayers. The role of a mother figure in a child's life just can't be emphasized enough. And if we think about all the things that we're responsible for, we can very easily be overwhelmed. But the good news is this: God chose you. He handpicked you to be your child's parent. And in Psalms 139, verse 13 through 16, God says, we are told, you are created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body, all the days ordained. And in Jeremiah 29:11, God says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And so what I think that we can take away from this is that parenting is tough, and it's hard, and it's messy, and it happens in the little everyday moments, and it's easy to get overwhelmed, but you're not alone. You know, a mother's prayers are powerful. And if you watched the service last week, you saw the video of the nurse Mary who prayed for her adoptive son and cared for him. For 16 years, she prayed for God to remember him. Can I be honest and say that I'm an expert at worry, but not so much at prayer? I worry about my kids constantly. I worry if I've given them enough, if I've given them too much. I worry if they've eaten their vegetables. I worry if they have the right friends. I worry if they're making good grades. Now that I'm sending my oldest off to college, I worry that I've given her all the lessons in life. My middle child is a new driver, so now I really worry about that. And my baby is going into high school. I am great at worrying. But I often forget that worry is an opportunity to pray. You know, mom guilt is not spiritual. We're all great at it. Let your fingers walk through Facebook or Instagram. It's full of moms who have seemingly reached the mom win. Recipes, decorating, perfect family pictures. I want to know where the hot mess moms are like me, the ones that are pushing the mess out of the way so that the picture looks good, the moms that are always 5 minutes late no matter how hard they try. All those memes that you laugh at, they're funny because they're true. Can you imagine if Mary had a platform for a blog or a post, the mom guilt that she felt? Here I am, carrying the Son of God. I'm giving birth in a barn. This is not what I had planned. Don't underestimate your role as a mom. God tells us anxiety and worry are not from him. He says, I have not given you a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power and love and sound mind. Which brings me to what I think is the most important point of this whole message. At the bottom of it all, I think what I'm here to tell you today is you're enough, period. As moms, we do a tremendous job of adding pressure on ourselves. But don't forget that parenting is in those small, everyday moments. Remember at the beginning, I told you about my favorite bedtime routine. Well, a few years back, we were sitting at my mom's table just talking about old times, and I mentioned how special that memory was to me. And to my surprise, my mom started crying because, little known to me, my mom had a very different point of view from that same time. You see, my mom was a single mom, and we were very poor. And we grew up, and I lived in several places, but this one particular place was a very small duplex, and it didn't have central heat. So in the evening time, when she was heating my blanket up, that was our only source of heat in the house. And to her, it was a picture of a time where she was failing as a mom because she couldn't give me what I needed. Don't underestimate your role as a mom. The things that you do are important. And before I tell you a couple things that you can do, just let me tell you, you're not alone. You know, as we're all home and self-quarantined and more isolation, depression rates are raising, abuse is raising, please know that you're not alone in that. And if that's something that you're experiencing, reach out to a friend or a family member or a pastor. Come to Celebrate Recovery. please know that this is not something to experience alone. But what are some things that you can do? First off, give yourself permission. Sometimes being good enough is good enough. We can't excel at all things all the time on all the days. If you try and pile all those hats on your head, they're going to fall off. And start today. If you aren't happy with the way things are, or if you want to strengthen what's already there, start making new memories. A kind word, a smile, a brush of the hair off the eyes. Eye contact goes a long way. If your kids are older, call them, reach out to them, buy something to decorate their dorm or their house. Make a connection with them to show that you care. And finally, pray. Pray for your kids. Pray when you're worried, especially when you're worried. Pray when you're happy and when you're angry. Pray when they've disappointed you. Pray when they're little and you put them to bed. Pray when they're gone and you're praying alone. I thought I would close with a quote. There's a pediatrician in Texas. Her name is Dr. Arnault at Cook's Children Pediatrics. And she was writing a blog about the interesting connection between being a pediatrician and a mom. And she said what I thought was beautiful. The beautiful part about motherhood is if they're consistently feeling your love and protection, no mistake will be too great.
Thank you, Alicia. What a wonderful word that you brought today for Mother's Day on behalf of nurses and moms everywhere. Thank you so much for that great word and for reminding us that mothers make a huge difference. They give life through emotional connection, physical contact, and spiritual completion. What great wisdom from God's word in Proverbs that you brought us today. Hey, we want you to know that if you need prayer, we are here today to pray for you and to serve you. There is an online campus pastor there in real time. You can type in a comment, send a prayer request. If you need ministry, Celebrate Recovery meets tomorrow night at 6:30. We'll also be having the online campus Wednesday night at 7. I'll be bringing a word on Wednesday if you want to connect with us in the middle of the week. But we want to know how we can serve you here at Journey. Leave a comment, a prayer request. If this is your first time to be at Journey, let us know. You can make a comment in the section below on Facebook Live, or fill out an online connect card if you're on the online campus. However you are joining us, we want you to know we are here to serve you. We're in Slidell, Louisiana, 3127 Pontchartrain Drive in Slidell. If you need ministry or prayer, you can drive by anytime. We're here Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'd love to know how we can serve you. If you just want to talk to the pastors or see somebody in person, let us know that you are here, and we would love to be able to serve you. If you want to give today to the ministry here at Journey, you can do that online at journeyfellowshipchurch.com. You can also give from the Journey app. You can touch that app, open it up, and it's really simple to set up online giving. You can text to give from your smartphone. 84321 is the number to text to give, or drop off your tithes here at the office or mail them in to 3127 Pontchartrain Drive here in Slidell. I am so excited to announce to you that on May 17th, we are going to resume limited live worship experiences right here in the main auditorium at Journey. If you're ready to reconnect and worship with us again, we will not have Generations Ministry, so none of the classrooms will be open, but you're welcome to bring your whole family into the auditorium. We're going to worship together next Sunday. If you're not quite yet ready to get out, or maybe you're still ill and want to stay home, that's awesome. Also, you can continue to worship on the online campus. You can join us. We'll be at full strength online and here in the main auditorium live starting Sunday, May 17th at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Be sure and download the Journey app. It's free from your app store. You can keep up with everything going on here at Journey, download resources, stay connected, find a small group, stay up to date on all the news that's happening. Go to your app store, type in Journey Fellowship Church in the search bar, and you can download our app. It's compliments of Journey. All the messages from this quarantine are already loaded. If you want to go back and watch some past messages or kind of catch up to date, they're all from they're all live from the Journey app. Well, we want to say Happy Mother's Day. And we are so honored to be able to worship God with you today. For those of you who drove by to pick up your gifts, you got a few more minutes. We're going to close the drive-thru at 12:30. You can still drive by and pick up your Mother's Day gift. Pastors are in the parking lot waiting to see you. And I know you heard me say this earlier on the video, but we are so pumped about Right Now Media. Right Now Media is the Netflix of Bible studies. And for all of the Journey family who wants to get connected, we're going to be rolling this out real soon. It is an online web-based ministry with tens of thousands of videos and links to books and other resources to help you and your children in their journey of faith, as well as to provide resources for your small group. Small groups will be rolling out in about 3 weeks. The summer semester is starting, so you need to get connected to Right Now Media. If you would like to, as a member of the Journey family, have access to Right Now Media, you can update us with your email address, and we will include you in the rollout as we get ready to offer this brand new ministry resource to all of the Journey families. Make sure that we have your updated email address. If we don't have it, you can fill out an online Connect card right now, send it to us, and we will add you to the rollout. Well, on behalf of me and Miss Rachel and all the pastors and the staff here at Journey Fellowship Church, we want to say goodbye. Happy Mother's Day. We can't wait to see you on May 17th. We love you and we miss you every day. Happy Mother's Day. Have a blessed week.